Hare Srinivasa, we're live now.
Yeah. Namaskara. Hare Srinivasa. Welcome to the concluding talk in the weekly Madhva Gnana Pravachana series from the Gnanakalpavruksha wing of New England, Sri Raghavendra Swami Vrindavana, Boston. We're indeed very blessed to be able to organize this program and to be able to do these Pravachanas by Sri Sunder Madakshira. We will do a short prayer to start with. Sahana vavatu sahano bhunaktu sahaviryankaravavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 आचार्यः पवनोऽस्माकम् आचार्याणि च भारती देवो नारायणः श्रीशः देवी मङ्गलदेवता पूज्याय राघवेन्द्राय सत्यधर्मप्रताय च भजतां कल्पवृक्षाय नामतां कामधेरवे. So we trust that you've all been enjoying and learning through this series of discourses by Sri Sunder, who has taken us on an enchanting journey through the life and works of Sri Madhvacharya and his contemporary disciples, and also the brilliant contributions of the Shishya Parampara until today. We learnt about the significance of Madhvanami to start with, that it was actually the day Sri Madhva disappeared from the Ananteshwara temple in Udupi to return to his guru, Sri Vedavyasaru in Badarikashram. We also heard that Sri Madhva had to pretty much overturn the prevailing understanding of scriptures single-handedly, winning debates over several established scholars, some of them who became his ardent disciples, such as Sri Padmanabha Tirtharu and Sri Narahari Tirtharu. Sundaravaru also explained the 9 tenets of Madhva philosophy, which pivot around the core tenet of Harihi Parataraha, Sriman Madhvamate Hariparataraha. Sundar then took us on a journey, a very enchanting journey of the lives and works of his Shishya Parampara as they propagated the Madhva philosophy through the length and breadth of the country. And he interspersed this with several interesting anecdotes and historical artifacts about Sri Jayatirtharu, Sri Vyasarajaru, and Sri Vadirajaru, and several others. And the stellar contributions of all these saint scholars was highlighted. So it was very evident that we are dealing with an ocean of knowledge, a veritable ocean of nectar that is available for us through our gurus. So even if we could get a few drops of this nectar, it would help us make significant progress in our spiritual pursuits as such. So with that in mind, in today's talk, Sundar will be talking about how to go about studying Madhva philosophy, as there is abundant literature out there. So it is this playbook that will help us move forward on this journey to whatever extent we can. And given that the series has generated a lot of interest with people yearning for more knowledge, and especially in greater detail, because several times we felt, kind of shortchanged because of time, we would be switching to a monthly format from May onwards, with probably a 90-minute session so that we can do full justice to the topics. And we will have one focal theme for each presentation. And we will give out more details as and when we kind of formulate this program in more detail. And one of the things that we want to do is basically go deeper into Haridasas in the next set of talks, perhaps followed by dedicated sessions on some of the acharyas, which we could not cover during the Shishya Parampara sessions. And also we would seek the audience to kind of provide us with any specific topic that you would like to get covered, so we can try to organize those also through the Madhvacharya for Youth organization as such. So basically the seed of Madhva-Gnana-Vruksha, which was sown on the auspicious Madhya-Navami day, has grown into a full-fledged Vruksha against all odds, basically, right? Because we planted the seed during the winter months in New England, and is now poised to blossom further as we go along with the blessings of Sri Harivayu Guruguru. So without much ado, over to you, Sundar Avare, for your presentation. We're all eagerly looking forward to this session, and we look forward to continued participation and support from all the devotees and sadhaks on this call. Hare Srinivasa.
Namaskara, Sujit. Thank you for that wonderful words. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om. Acharya Pavanosmakam, Acharyani cha Bharati, Devo Narayana Shrishaha, Devi Mangala Devata. Yonta pravishya mamavacha mimam prasuptam sanjeevayathyakhila shakti dharasva dhamna anyam chahasta charana shamanatva gadin pranannamo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. We started on a very, very interesting journey on the day of Madhvanami this year. And as Sujit, I think, very rightly put it, we have come some distance on that journey. And today we are seeing the culmination of that series of lectures, which talked about different aspects of Madhva philosophy, Madhvacharya himself, what were his principled um, teachings, and today looking at all the Shishya Parampara, or people who came in that lineage, who have given us something absolutely invaluable, because all of them had only one clear goal, which is to elevate humanity. So today we are going to be looking at a very interesting topic and something which is probably of the highest impact to all of us. That yes, we have learned about a little bit about the Madhva philosophy. We learned different aspects, but if I were to start studying the Madhva philosophy, how do I go about doing it? And so today, that's the coverage of the topic that we are going to be looking at. So today we will cover the importance and benefits of studying the Madhva Shastra. We will look at, what is the mindset that is required, very important in these contemporary times, about how do you develop the mindset and the readiness that you need to have to be able to study the Madhva philosophy. The third one is about a very frequently asked question, which is about Guru. Who is my Guru? Where do I find my Guru? And so on. And lastly, we look at the online and the offline resources that one can tap into to be able to start studying the Madhva philosophy. Take my word, I think even if we conduct a 10-hour workshop on just the resources part, we will not have covered it, even a small bit of it, because the resources which are currently available and very importantly accessible are infinite in nature. So that is those are the resources. And at the end of today's session, what I think we would have achieved or we would be able to do is that you can learn about all these resources which are available and how can you support the Madhva Shastra development. Because while we consume Madhva Shastra, we also have to ensure that we support all the ongoing efforts being made by different organizations to propagate the Madha. And that's going to be very important, because that is really an investment that we have for the future. Our ancestors, our predecessors have ensured that this is preserved for 900 years. That is not a mean task at all. It's very difficult to preserve anything for 900 years. And at a times when the country, that is India, where all this was born, was ravaged by so many attacks within the country, people from outside the country, the Britishers and so on. I think having preserved it for so many centuries itself is a great achievement. But what do we do about the future? Because we spent a lot of time thinking about the past. But what will be the future, and what will be our little role that we can all play in recreating the future that we all want for our future generations, for our children, our grandchildren, and so on. So with that, let's straight away deep dive into the first topic, which is of importance and benefits of studying the scriptures. Now, what really happens is when we want to understand the world around us, it has got three parts, as we have learned in the earlier sessions. There is God, there is the soul, and there is the world, or the Jagat. Now, all of us have this experience, whether somebody is philosophically inclined or not, spiritually inclined or not. One thing is common between all of us is, who am I? What am I meant to do? Because no matter what I do in this world and this materialistic existence of mine, there seems to be some kind of a missing link. There is something amiss. I feel a sense of void. This is a common feeling. Even if, even people who've started on the spiritual path will be testimony to the fact that as they go on that path, the void starts to get filled. by something which has got a higher purpose. Everything that they do starts to slowly change and manifest in different ways. God's work, it's not my work anymore, it's God's work. This is not my world. This is the world created by God. This is not my family. This is God's family. And this is not my house. One day I will have to forsake all that I've created materialistic and leave this world. So, what is the point in investing so much in a world which is largely temporary? And our existence in that temporary world is even more temporary. So, if one does not take up the studies of scriptures, there's absolutely no hope in hell that he will get any understanding of any of these aspects. If we keep on looking at things which are always clearly visible to our eyes, we stand to lose a lot, because the best part of the world is something which is not visible to us. Today, you look at the corona, it's spread all over the place. Can any one of us see it? Not at all. Look at, there are so many aspects. For example, those of you who are right now joining us from the United States can't see your home in India. But does it mean that this home does not exist just because you cannot see it? So there are multiple things in this world which are not visible to the naked eye, but they exist. And many things, you look at the oxygen, the air around us, that's not visible, but we experience. And we can experience it in every breath. And if there was no air, we wouldn't have existed at all. So that is why the Brahma Sutras give a very, very clear direction to our life. What is the meaning of our life? Is Athato Brahma Jignasa Om. So what this means is, let us contemplate and let us think about the Brahman or the God. Let us contemplate on his qualities. Let us contemplate on what he is and what he is not. At the end of that contemplation, and if one does it in an honest manner, he can even come to very different conclusions. But contemplate we must. So when we want to contemplate about that, the Brahma Sutras goes on further to say Shastra Yonitvato. That means the God is visible only when you start studying the scriptures. Why? Because God is not visible to the naked eye. The Vedas, the main texts which talk about God, are apaurishaya, that means not created by anyone. And they are difficult, they're cryptic. They sometimes appear like software code. For the layman, that is not something which is easily understood. So God is not seen. The best vehicle that we have with him to understand him is apaurishaya. It's difficult to understand. So how do we understand? That is a larger question. That is where the role of the great works done by our gurus comes into picture, because they presented everything in this context, which is that in a situation when we do not know what our goal is, we do not know what the path is, we do not know how to measure success, how will we progress? So they set the goal, they gave the path, and they have set the milestones for all of us. Whatever you do, one thing is for sure, that the greatest benefit of studying the Shastras is that it gives you Ananda or bliss. You slowly start moving toward that state of bliss, which is very different from the state of mere happiness. Happiness is temporary. Bliss is little more permanent than that. There is a happiness that you feel which is complete and which seems to be having a sense of permanence. That is bliss. So, this Shastra or Madhvacharya's another name is Ananda Tirtha. So what is the benefit of reading Ananda Tirtha Shastra is Ananda. And Ananda, of course, as we know, is the name of Sri Vishnu himself. Anando Nandano Nandaha. So that is Ananda. Ananda Tirtha is our Guru. So the end goal of anybody who is studying the Shastra is that he should have that sense of bliss in his heart, despite all the things which may go right or may go wrong in the world around us. That state of bliss and that state of happiness is something that we should all experience. The second thing is, when you're looking at it today, if you look at the world around us, everybody, there is no shortage of people who call themselves gurus. Anybody who has a beard, and a long one at that, is not a guru, cannot be considered a guru. So therefore, we need to be very careful in the way we understand who is a guru and who is not a guru. So therefore, if you look at the Madhva Shastra or the scriptures, they have stood the test of times. This is not something which has grown yesterday. Madhva Shastra started 900 years back, as we said. The Granthas written by Veda Vyasa are older even to that. And the Vedas do not have a timeline. Nobody knows when the Vedas were created. In fact, they were never created. They exist as sound waves in the universe. And if we have the right radar, we will catch it, which is what the great rishis around us have done. So therefore, it is a time-tested method of experiencing joy and happiness in our life. Today, it is so surprising that whatever was created in our scriptures get repeddled to us from some so-called gurus and so-called philosophers from other parts of the world. And today, the world has come to realize that if there is one spiritual capital of the world, it is India. And at the epicenter of that is Sri Madhwacharya's philosophy. We have a sense of purpose. We are all intelligent people. Our mind is always seeking for the next step. We have all achieved a lot in our life, and that is where we are in our materialistic and the world that is there in front of us. So our mind will not be satisfied with earning a living. Yes, that was a goal that is very important as well. We educated ourselves. We are working in some organizations. We have made money. We have taken care of our families. What next is the question that's going to come in front of us. And that is where I think the study of Madhva Shastra gives you that superb path and that sense of meaning in our life. Today, the world is going through tremendous amount of anxiety. And a lot of this has been created by unethical behavior of people. Every day, there is news about something getting hacked, something not appropriate in some corporate organization, corruption in government, hatred. All this has taken into has grown very strong in our society, whichever part of the world that we might live in. So to create an ethical society and an ethical family, ethical world around us, it is important that ourselves and our children are exposed to our scriptures, which are always bringing them to the path of dharma and the path of righteousness. The other thing for us to remember is charity and transformation starts at home. We are very good at looking at other things and saying, okay, that should change, this should change, this institution should change, that organization should change, that gentleman should change, and so on and so forth. But what we are not very good at is bringing change in our own, with ourselves, with our families, with our homes, with our friends, and with our community. Even a small change which is made in that direction can go a very long way in transforming the world. So when we are talking about study of Madhva Shastra, let us not worry about who else is studying it, because that's a very common human thought. Oh, why should I study Harikathamrita Sara? Who else is studying it? Now, that's not a question for us to really look at, because that doesn't answer, does not help solve our problems. Is other people are suffering? Are you willing to suffer in that manner? The answer is no. If the answer is no, then we will have to move and we will have to be the harbingers of that change around us. So let us not worry here about what the rest of the world is doing. If we believe the study of Madhva Shastra is so important, we should take it up and we should drive it at least in our sphere of influence. So finally, if destiny has it that your sphere of influence is zero, which is that you are only able to do it with yourself, so be it. Do not, in this matter, I would always urge people to look at what they can achieve and how they can elevate themselves before even looking at others. So therefore, we need to look at this as an opportunity to bring in tremendous transformation about us. If you look at all our scriptures, they all start with a sense of question. There is doubts in people's mind. There is anxiety in the minds of the people who are asking these questions. And in the series of question and answers, the person, the guru, gives the answers and the person listens to him. And then he comes as an elevated and emerges as an elevated source. Of course, the classic epitomization of this is Bhagavad-Gita itself. Arjuna, the warrior par excellence, an archer par excellence, a kshatriya par excellence, a gnani par excellence, today is in a state where he's not able to move, forget even fight the war. And he's got questions which are shocking, because how can somebody who is such an expert warrior, who's won several wars before, today is questioning the nature of the war, the questioning the final outcome of the war. And what does Krishna do? In such a short period of time, he transforms himself from that state to the time when he fights the epic war and wins the war. There were only 10 survivors at the end of the war. And going by the way Arjuna started it, he wouldn't have been in the 10 and fought his Dharma Yuddha had he not followed the instructions of Sri Krishna. So the transformation ability that our Shastra has on us is unbelievable. Akshobhya Tirtha told Shri Jaitirtha, Kim Pashu Purva Dehe. And from a guy who was actually riding a horse, he immediately Dhondu Raya became Shri Jaitirtha. Purandara wife egged him, and in one small incident transformed him from a person who was called Navakoti Narayana, somebody who had so much of wealth that we cannot even imagine what the value of that wealth would be if he was alive, if that wealth was there today. Unbelievable. From there he becomes the great Sri Purandaradasa, someone who became the Sangeeta Pitamaha, of course, but also became the main proponent of the Haridasa Sahitya, ensuring that even to this day, Madhva philosophy and our Shastras are sung in melodious tunes the world over. People may not know Madhva Shastra in the Vyasa Sahitya way, but there is nobody who does not know Bhagyada Lakshmi Baramma in this world. So therefore, it led to such tremendous transformation. There is the story of Sri Vishnu Tirtha, who's also known as Adavi Swamigal. By the way, Sri Vishnu Tirtha is a common name of many pontiffs. So this person had just finished his lunch and he was resting. He was just sitting on the bed, and his wife was sitting next to him, and she was giving him the pan, the eladike, as we call it in Kannada. And there was a person who was going on the street. He was just reciting one of Purandarasa's kritis, Mancha Maradu, Madadi Baralu, Kanchu Kannadi Baradu. Meaning that the bed that we have is not going to be with us for us. Bed is a symbol of luxury. Those days people would always sleep on the floor, so the bed was considered a symbol of luxury. Even in the Shastric way, the bed or the cot is known as is a symbol of luxury. Mancha Baradu, Madadi Baradu. That means the wife, which is again symbol of this world and all the worldly attachments. That is not going to come with you. Munche Madiro Dharmava. So he says, first perform that one sentence of Sri Purandaradasa completely transformed Sri Vishnu Tirtha. He became a symbol of detachment, of Vairagya, and he became Sri Vishnu Tirtha. That is the impact that Madhva Shastra has on all of us. I think it creates a very good culture of studies at home. It's very important, because if we do not have the habit of studying at home, when our kids do not see us indulging in that study, it's very hard for them to imagine, because children, as we know, always mock their parents. They copy their parents, sometimes even blindly. And if there is a culture at home where there's a library, a small one, big one, doesn't matter, but there are Shastric Granthas, someday the children will pick it up and read it. Or somebody will pick up that book and read it. If it's a good book and it stands a test of time, it will survive for many years. It's very ironical. We say, my son, I did not get an opportunity to do engineering, but I want my son to study engineering. I did not study in an Ivy League school, but I want my daughter to study there. I could not become a lawyer, therefore I want my daughter to be a lawyer. I could not become a doctor, so I want my son to become a doctor. But we never think that I could not study Shastras because probably I was not destined and I did not make efforts. But we never think that, look, my children could have, I hope and pray God that our children study Shastras. So that should become our objective, that we will study Shastra in the time that we have left in our lives. Every second counts. And we will ensure that our children are also in that path. You will see the magical transformation at home once you start getting these Shastra Granthas at home. It changes the environment at home. It's my own experience. And lastly, studies of Shastra is a great intellectual stimulation. It makes us think in angles which we have not thought earlier in our lives. Science, our corporate life, software development, our daily lives, daily chores, everything would have taken us in a certain way of thinking. If you want radically different ideas, then you will have to look at new sources of that knowledge. We have heard of great industrialists. We've heard about the story of Steve Jobs coming all the way to India to live in an ashram to get that inspiration. There are several such stories that we hear about. The whole world today is looking at our scriptures, the Indian scriptures, for a radical transformation of the world. People are practicing yoga. They're taking up Ayurveda. There are more people reciting Hare Rama, Hare Krishna across in other parts of the world than India itself. This is the spread of the superb philosophy that India has. And no matter what happens, India will always be the philosophical capital of the world. And it's our responsibility to preserve these Shastras and these scriptures for the future times. So with this is the important benefit of reading the Madhvacharya. Now coming to the mindset, this is something, the mindset that we should have is that this is something that's critical. Why do we have to tell all this every day to ourselves? Is they have got a way of slipping out of our routine. So this is important to me. The Shastras are very, very important to me. If I don't, it is a big loss for me. If I don't study the Shastras, Madhvacharya, it is the biggest loss that we can think of. And I will like to repeat an anecdote which I have shared in many other occasions. Once I had the opportunity to visit the valley very early in my career, and that was my second or third visit to the United States. And I had to meet a colleague, an American woman, in Cupertino. So I met her and she asked me what is my next program, and I told her I want to visit the Stanford University and spend the rest of the day in the university. And she told me, oh, you're going to Stanford, that is great. There is a beautiful coffee house in Stanford which serves some very rare type of coffee, and you should definitely have that coffee. I was aghast, saying that this is my first visit to arguably one of the greatest universities of this century in the world, and all that we can think about is a cup of coffee. Now, of course, I respect her views and I also respect her kindness, because what she probably meant was to point out something that was unique. But to me, it was something which I think was a gross underrepresentation of what a great university that was in many ways. If we come into this world where we have the access to the Shastras, in whatever form we want, it is possible for us to get it. Yes, we may have to put some effort for sure in reading it, because that's a funny thing about knowledge. Nobody can, put it in a USB drive, plug it into our brain and download it. No matter how many resources are available, it's up to us to be able to move on that and acquire it for ourselves. And everybody will have to do it for himself. The father can give his children in inheritance books. He can get them admission into the best college in the world. All that he can do. But to be able to sit in a classroom and acquire that knowledge, everybody will have to make their own effort. So therefore, it is something that, imagine when we have so much of access and everything at a tap of a button today, literally, if we don't do this and don't make use of these resources, we will have a lot of time in our old age to think about why did we waste our time this way. Because that is when, even if the realization comes, it's of no use, because time would be running out. Our mental health faculty would have come down. And the Bhagavata says it in a beautiful way when, in the story of Prahalada, the great devotee, as a 5-year-old child, he tells the students around him, the co-students, his classmates, saying, all those children call him, saying, Prahalada, come, let's play. He says, there is no time to play. We got a very short life. So all of them say, Prahalada, you are just 5 years old, and you are saying there's no time. We've got all our life ahead of us. But he says, no, we don't have time. Look at our lives. We think we have 24 hours a day. We don't have 24 hours a day, because 8 hours is gone just sleeping. And then we have our daily routine. We have our ablutions. We've got to do so many things. We got an office to go to. So many years, so many hours, so many days we lose because we are not keeping well, or somebody is not keeping well, wasting so much of time on the traffic that we have to wade through in the modern life, and so on. So if you just calculate, the first 20 years of our life is passes away in balya, or childhood and youth. Then people spend a lot of time trying to settle down in their lives, saying, okay, now I need to get a job, I need to get married, I need to have children, and so on and so forth. If we just start deducting from that life of 80 years, what is left in front of us? Hardly anything. And this is the point that Prahalada Raja says, that if you deduct all this, what will be left of your life? It's barely a few years of productive life that we do. And in that, if we fritter away that opportunity, God will, will, will punish us, because really it's a great opportunity that we got and we didn't make use of it. Very much like going to Stanford and drinking coffee and coming back without visiting the beautiful university and great library and great bookstall, and just being in such a great atmosphere, academic atmosphere. If you go to Udupi, there is no other goal. We have only one goal, which is to visit Shri Krishna. If you go to Tirupati and you tell people, oh, I had got to Tirupati, the next question that you're going to be asked is, what is the question? Which is, what is the darshan? How was the darshan? Did you have a good darshan? That is the only question. Everything else is secondary. So therefore, in our lives, there is nothing more important than studies of our scripture. The place which is being given to acquiring spiritual knowledge by our scriptures is something which is not being given to anything. So there is a story which is there is a beautiful shloka which Vadiraja Tirtha actually says. He says, Ananda Tirtha Mujjhita Tosha Jatam Swananda Dayi Shithali Krita Matta Mayi Manauga Shobhi Mama Durjara Punja Tobhir Yene Drishi Matira Bhut Kavitilo Bhut. So what this basically means is that the happiness and the content that this one gets because of the study of the scriptures is something which is unparalleled, which cannot be compared to anything. So there is another beautiful story in Sumadha Vijaya which I think says that very well. There was Narayana Panditacharya, the author, is talking about this thing called Balamuri Shankha. So the Shankha is always used at the time of doing the puja. The Balamuri Shankha is something which turns to the right. So that is not a Shankha which has to be used for the puja, but it has to be prayed to itself, like a Saligrama. So that Balamuri Shankha, one day a person was walking on the beach and he found a Balamuri Shankha. And now that gentleman doesn't know it's a Balamuri Shankha, because Balamuri Shankha is very, very expensive and is very, very precious, because it has the Lakshmi Narayana Sannidhana. That means it's got God's presence in it. He didn't know it. So he took that and he tried to crush it, because when you crush a conch shell, it gives you calcium, and that is sold as calcium outside. So he was a seller and he tried to hit it, it didn't break. So he just threw it. He said it's useless. Imagine he threw something which today's world costs lakhs of rupees. And then it went to somebody who was a trader. He saw that and he said, oh, this is a Balamuri Shankha. So let me sell it at the right price. So he took it and then he sold it at the right price. So he's slightly better off than the other guy because he got some money out of it, and at least he could recognize that this has got some value. But again, he sold it. He gave it away to someone else. Whereas the king of that place, he bought that Balamuri Shankar and he gave it a place of honor, and he prayed. And every day he prayed to God that may myself and the whole kingdom be blessed with a lot of prosperity. And God, in true kindness, bestowed him with that. So this example is given of the Balamuri Shankar and Madhvacharya are similar. Madhvacharya is great, but only for people who know the value. If you don't know the value, it is just another book with a lot of Sanskrit shlokas and something that we believe is not at all connected to our lives. It is meant for some scholars who can keep reading whenever they want. So that's unfortunately not right. So the mindset that there we need is exactly what is written here. Shavanadi vinaneva kshanam tishtetapi ek kvachit atyashaktyadu nidrado punareva samabhyavate. What it says is, Madhvacharya says in Anuvyakhana that do not waste even 1 second. Shavanadi vinaneva kshanam tishtetapi ek kvachit. Don't even miss one kshana, 1 second without reading. Shavana means actually hearing, but that's a way of learning. So whether it is Shavanadi means Shavana. So there are 9 types of bhaktis, and in one of the future sessions we can go into the detail about what each type of 9 different types of bhakti is there. But it starts, the first one is Shavana. Shavana again is meaning of is a word which is symbolic of not just listening but also reading, studying, and understanding. Shavana manana itidhyasa, as they call it, is very, very important. So without that, do not waste even 1 second without doing it. So even if you get, how much should one study? One should study till he falls off sleep. When it's not possible for him to control, he's just falling off because of exhaustion, then he may sleep for some time. But what he says, atyashaktatu nidrado. So when you're sleeping, for some you can sleep for some time. Again, when you wake up, you should start studying again. In our entire Madhva Shastra, in our entire scriptures, there is no time which has been regulated saying you cannot study at this time, you should not study. Any time of the day, one has the freedom to study. Right? Of course, things like japa has to be done in the morning. Puja has to be done in the morning. Sandhya Vandana has to be done only in those 3 stipulated times. But for studies, there is absolutely no regulation. One has to wake up, take a bath, and then he's ready. Any time of the day, he can study. He can study at midnight, he can study in the evening, afternoon, morning, anytime. There is no regulation. So that should be our mindset, saying that whatever happens, this is important to me. The second thing is I will be able to understand the Shastras. I want everybody to be clear that they can understand the Shastras. This is not something that cannot be understood. Yes, initially, when you're starting off on that, you will find that it is something that you will find it difficult to relate to for some time. So just leave it for a few times. Just keep going through it. Slowly, you will see how you're growing. Now, this is the common thing about all learning process. Imagine you're going to a gym. First 1 month, you only get body ache. Do you get 6-pack muscles? Do you become stronger? Do you feel do you feel more energetic? No, on the contrary, everything reverse will be happening. You'll be more tired. You'll have more body ache. But as the days goes by, slowly your body gets used to it. Similarly, your mind needs the tuning, a little bit of tuning. And once your mind is tuned to the Shastras, you'll be able to progress at an unbelievable pace. So whatever I understand is a gain for me. It is not required that everybody studies everything in Shastra. No, our Shastra is an ocean. But in that, whatever little we get is absolutely great. So look at a big honeycomb. It's got a lot of honey in it. Do we have to drink 3 liters of honey to taste the sweetness? No. 1 drop of that honey on our tongue is enough to energize us. Immediately we feel so happy and so exhilarated. So Madhva Shastra is not Madhva Shastra, it is Madhu Shastra, because Madhu means honey. And that 1 drop is enough. We have studied 1 shloka of Madhwa philosophy. Today we have learned how to study Madhva philosophy. That itself is enough. Somebody read Devarnama, 1 line in the Devarnama. That itself is enough. That is also studies. So do not always think that we have to pick up 2,000-page books and mug up the whole book, only then that is Shastra. No. Anything that we study in Madhva Shastra is a big step in towards our goal. And nothing is small. Haridasa Sahitya and Vyasa Sahitya are same. They're just representation in a different language. So do not undermine the importance of Haridasa Sahitya. And this is not being said as a consolation to Haridasa Sahitya. It is a proof. It is proven again and again. We ourselves have seen it in several of our sessions. If you quote any Devarnama, even one line in Haridasa Sahitya, it will have a very direct correlation to something that has been said in the Vyasa Sahitya. So why sometimes take up the burden of learning a new language, trying to understand something else, if Haridasa Sahitya is available? So if you have access to that, it is by all means definitely something that is a study of the scriptures. Only thing, it is not in Sanskrit form, but that does not take away the importance of what it is. Right? So if you look at a user manual, it is written in different languages. Does it mean that the product works less for people who have bought a German product and are using it in Japan? Ridiculous. No, it works well everywhere. Just that the user manual is written in a different language. So therefore, that is something that is, and small steps can lead to big things. It is a scientific. My only request to all of you is study the Shastra in a scientific way, in an analytical way. Then take a step back and say, what is the author of that trying to tell? What is the larger purport of what is being said? Where have we studied it earlier? How am I able to correlate these aspects? And wherever I am not able to understand, write that question and ask learned guru, and definitely you will see big change that is happening there. So slowly you will realize that it's not 500 questions, it's just 10-15 questions which are bogging you down. And that once you get clarity on that, you just, it's like driving on a highway. You will be told, the Google Maps will tell you that in this stretch there is bad traffic, but once you cross it, you can just zoom past that, because now you have the clarity on some important question. And of course, lastly, very important, use the method that best works for you. If it is something that you're good at reading, please read. I would suggest that's a great way to do it. But for whatever reason you're not good at reading, but you're very good at listening, then please ensure that you have a guru who is teaching you, and you're listening to a lot of pravachanas. And every day, listening to pravachana for 45 minutes to an hour, for 30 days, you can see the big difference that it is making to your spiritual quotient. You'll be amazed to see this. Sorry if I'm sounding like an insurance agent trying to sell you something, and or a dietitian who is trying to sell you a 30-day diet course. But the fact is, our shastras themselves say that, when you look at the Bhagavata, it says, Yelu dinava kathaya keli yeliro maikuntake. It says, just listen to this 7-day story, and then go up to achieve salvation. So imagine 7 days. Nothing can be guaranteed in 7 days. But the Bhagavata assures you that if you read this for 7 days, you will attain moksha. Of course, it has to be done with dedication. It has to be done with commitment. And Bhagavata itself describes what that commitment means and one should be doing. So it is not a mysterious thing. It is something that we can all use in our daily life and make the best of it. So that's the mindset that we need when we are studying the Shastras. The third topic is on Guru. A lot of questions we have. Who is a Guru? Who is my Guru? There is also a concept called Niyata Guru. That means who is my ordained teacher. That means who has been sent by God. Because our Shastras clearly say that we have to learn from our ordained Guru. So how will I know that the Guru is there? Now don't wait for that Guru for eternity. Anybody who is teaching, ultimately it is Sri Vedavyasa and Sri Madhwacharya who are residing in that person and teaching us. Right? You may have learnt, you may go to MIT and study mathematics there. It doesn't matter beyond a point who the professor is, but you are always called a graduate from MIT. So therefore, look at somebody, engage with Shastra Pata. My suggestion to all of you is, there is something called Shastra Pata. That means every day they do a webcast, live webcast of lessons by different scholars. And we will share more resources of that in the coming slides. So please engage with this on a daily basis, because this is something that we need to catch up. We need to move a little fast. So reading and leaving it to completely to ourselves may not be a good uh, idea, especially in initially days. So ensure that you have enrolled for these Shastra Patas. They're absolutely free of time, free of cost. They come early in the morning, India time, which is very well suited for your time, the American Standard Time, whichever time zone you are, it suits pretty well. And please make that effort to ensure that you have a guru. Lot of people do this very regularly from India. So please ensure that you've ensured for these enrolled for these classes. We are also ensuring that I will send a link to the Shastra Patha of Vyasanikara Prapanjanacharya. It's a WhatsApp group created by one of the persons who works very closely with him by name Vinay, and he has sent us he has formed a group only for people in the United States. So I will send that link to the volunteers who can then publish it. You can just click on that link and join that group, and you will every day 30 minutes before the start you will get a WhatsApp link to go to YouTube, and you can join that. So please make an effort to study from Dr. Vyasankara Prabhanjanacharya and other people like Dr. Ananda Tirtha Nagasampike or Sri Haridas Bhatt, who are always teaching on the weekends from the Purna Prajna Samshodhana Mandiram. So we will be sharing those resources as well. Learn from multiple gurus, learning anytime, anywhere. Don't, as far as this is concerned, do not look at the time. If you could not study before dinner, it's okay. So, one day it's better. You can read it after dinner. If you are the kind of person who cannot study in the morning, do it in the night. If you can't do it in the night, do it in the morning. If you can't do either, do it in the afternoon. Do whatever you want, but make time for this. You will never get time for it. You will have to make time for it, because this has not been on our radar as a prominent thing so many years. Now we have to get it. So once we realize the importance of this, which we hopefully have got, I think it is something that we should make time for it. And I would suggest, please have, or if you know of any other great scholar who can teach you this and is prepared to do it, please do that, and do that as a paid lesson, which means you please offer a small fee to the teacher who can then start teaching you. The reason is many of them are still dependent on Madhvacharya Gnana for their livelihood, and therefore it is very important that you pay them a small fee, and they will refuse, because that is not the way it works in the world today. Most of the scholars do not charge anything as such to teach. Imagine the scriptures, the philosophy, which is so great, which is so profound, is absolutely free of cost. Can you think of any other university other than Sri Madhwacharya University which can give us this great knowledge free of cost? There is no cost. There is no money involved. Even to this day, no scholar charges money in order to be teaching something. So it's our duty to ensure that while they do not want it, it's our duty to ensure that some token amount is given as a Guru Dakshina, so that it helps them sustain and also motivates them to do more in Madhva Shastra. Right? It's, as I said, it's not an expectation from them, but it is something that we need to give as our duty. So now let's get in the last 5 minutes into looking at how should one study. What is the sequence? So Madhvacharya has written 37 Sarvamoola Granthas. Now, in discussion with several scholars, I have come up with this list of all the Granthas which one should study. Now, where does one get these Granthas? All these Granthas, most of them are available online. Now, for the ones which are not available online, you could purchase these books. These books are available in certain bookstalls. Again, I'll be happy to connect you with those bookstalls, and many of them regularly ship books to the United States. So these books are available. Tattva Sankhyana, which is enumeration of the entities, right? Tattva Viveka, it's corollary grantha. So Tattva Sankhyana, for your information, is only 11 shloka grantha. It has got only 11 shlokas. And if one makes a good attempt, in about 3 to 4 hours, he can complete that book, including Sri Tirtha's commentary. So you got Tattva Sankhya, Tattva Viveka, Mayavada Khandana, Upadhi Khandana, Prapancha Mithya Manavana Khandana, Vishnu Tattva Nirnaya, Tattvodhyota, Ishavasya Upanishad Bhashya, and Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashya. These 9 books are, if you cover these, now it will take you some time. It will take you about 2 to 3 years to complete all of this. But those 3 years, you would have actually got 95% of Madhva Shastra. It would have covered almost all aspects of Madhva Shastra. Now, which is that 5%? It is more to do with a little more refined understanding, which you will get it in other granthas. So these are granthas which you have to have a guru to be able to teach you. These are not books that you can just pick up and start reading them, because they require some explanation, especially in the initial years. Once you get familiar, of course, you can read it by yourself. So ensure that you have covered this in the next 2 to 3 years. Take it steady. Again, all the investment that is required is 1 hour, 15 minutes every day, maximum. You will be able to cover all of this in the next 2 years. In fact, not even 3 years. But be diligent about it. Take breaks. Enjoy your studies. It is not a burden. It should not appear to be a burden. Initially, as I said, your mind is getting tuned as, oh, where is this going? Where am I going? But within 1 month, you will see a remarkable change in the way you are approaching this. It will become very familiar. The patterns start to repeat. And once that happens, your progress is superb. Take my word, in my life, my father was working in the Indian Air Force. So I did not have the opportunity to read Kannada at all. And for the first 20 years of my life, I was completely away from the city of Bangalore, which is my native city. And we were everywhere in the northern part of India where we had no access to this. But when we came down south and we settled down in Bangalore, I did not even know how to study one letter of Kannada. But I made an effort. I read it here and there. Again, unfortunately, I never learned the language formally. But within the next 3 to 4 years, I was able to read Kannada books fairly easily. And every year after that, I've been picking up speed. So my suggestion, please learn the Kannada language, because everything is in the Madhvacharya is predominantly in Kannada. Translating it to English becomes very difficult. It is a humongous task if you have to, convert all this or translate all of them to English, because English as a language does not lend itself to the translation at all. These are very, very simple granthas. The names might sound very scary to you, but once you know the subject content, you will see how great and how profound these are. I've specifically given this list because there are a lot of other granthas. But for that, you don't need a teacher. For these, you definitely need a teacher. And I have also written 2 Tika Granthas. One is Pramana Paddhati, which is again not a Tika Grantha, but it is a Swatantra Grantha written by Sri Tirtha, which is about epistemology. It talks about what constitutes proof. So please make an effort to read that. And lastly, Tattva Prakashika, which is a Tika Grantha, or the commentary on Madhvacharya's Brahma Sutra Bhashya. So if you cover these 9 plus 2 granthas, you would have, as I said, covered 95% of the granthas of what is there as Madhva philosophy. So many people are looking for some simple suggestions. The list is very long, but I've got the ones that you should look at it on priority. So first one, written by English, which is Life and Works of Sri Madhvacharya and Gita Madhu. Both of them were written by Pravachanacharya. It's in English. You can read it. It's very simple. Life and Works of Sri Madhvacharya is nothing but, in some sense, the English translation of Sumadhvijaya. But it does not go shloka by shloka, but it's an overall presentation of Madhva. It's a very, very beautifully written book. There is another book which was written by Dr. B.N.K. Sharma. That book was written in the 1960s. Very beautifully written book. It's in a slightly scholastic language, but written by someone who was an absolute scholar. So this is available in PDF, fortunately. And I have already sent it to the organizers. I request them to post it at all the relevant places. You can access that P.N.K. Sharma's book. Other than that, simple books in Kannada. Again, one is on Madhva Siddhanta. It's a beautiful, very short book called Madhva Siddhanta. It hardly has 60 pages. Beautiful summary of Madhva Shastra. Purna Prajna Darshana, again a shorter version of Sumad Vijaya, which takes us through the journey of Madhvacharya's life, but has covered a lot of philosophical aspects about his life, his philosophy, and so on. It's a must read for everybody. Of course, reading the Sumad Vijaya is the best, but next to that is Purna Prajna Darshana. Harikatamritsara. Now, if you want me to make bets here, it is Harikatamritasara, which is, I would suggest, is an absolute priority by Sri Jagannatha Dasaru. What a beautiful epitomization of Madhva Shastra. What a beautiful summary presented in Kannada language, which is, it's stunning. It is hard to believe that somebody could have covered every aspect of Madhva Shastra in such a beautiful form. It's an encyclopedic work par excellence. Again, it is written in a slightly scholastic Kannada, but today we have excellent translations available in Kannada. So it's a Kannada book which has been translated into Kannada. And also the unique thing about Sri Harikatamritasara is it is the only Kannada book which has been translated into Sanskrit. Yes, you heard it right. It's a Kannada book which has been translated into Sanskrit. Because some of the aspects are so profound that people found that there is some merit in expressing it in Sanskrit, which is, as we know, is a language which is ideally suited for scriptures. So that is the other one. Madhva Bharata, all these books are written by Sri Prabhanjanacharya. Sarvamula Saurabha, which is again a small short book which has got the highlights of all the 37 texts. What is the content and what is the highlight of that book has been brought out in a very pithy manner. It's about 120 pages. And lastly, Bhagavad-Gita, a beautiful, very, very short presentation of the Bhagavad-Gita has been done by Sri Prabhanjanacharya. So these are the books that I would urge all of you to read. And slowly, yes, it looks very daunting in the beginning, but once you get started, there is no stopping us. Online resources that we have, there is a website called vyasamadhva.org. Many of you might be familiar. This is again Sri Prabhanjanacharya's website, the first website amongst in the Madhva Mata. It has 6,000 hours of Pravachana in it. Yes, 6,000 hours. So it's beautifully classified on the basis of topics, and all these are available in MP3 and other formats. So please visit this website, download all the topics that are interesting to you, and please make it a point to listen. So life of our gurus, Ugadi, the importance of Ugadi, festivals, several granthas, Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavata, Mahabharata, everything is beautifully explained in series of lectures. So as I said, this is a massive content resource. Similarly, there is a PPSM, Purna Prajna Samshodhana Mandira, again a beautiful collection of many lectures, many pathas. This is the place that you can go and also join the patha live every day. And there is another resource called sumadvaseva.com. Many of you might be familiar. It's again a very good place for online resources. Many books, many shlokas, many biographies have been translated into English and they are available here. So you can access it. Now, I talked about Pravachana. There are two Pravachanas which I would really urge all of you to do, both by Dr. Vyasankara Prabhanjanacharya. One is the 9 Tenets of Madhwa Philosophy. The organizer, Mr. Murli Avre, will be shortly copying all these links onto the comment section, and it will also be posted below in the comment section in YouTube. So please do access it there. It will be difficult for you to search otherwise. So just go to this place which has got the 9 tenets of Madhva philosophy. It's a 9-day lecture on these 9 tenets by Sri Prabhanjanacharya, which he delivered in the Purna Prajna Vidyapita about 7 years back. And there is something called Bhagavad-Gita, which is again an excellent 18-day lecture that Sri Prabhanjanacharya delivered in Udupi. Of course, each of those lectures, all the lectures that he has delivered are masterpieces, but these 18 are very special and help us understand Bhagavad-Gita in its true essence. So that is available. Please do it, go to that. I talked about the Nitya Patha. every day we are talking about daily lessons. Please do come and attend this thing called, which is everyday pata, that is run by Dr. Pramanjanacharya. It is, if you go to YouTube, it is, as you see, it is written, it is run by a person by name Vinay. You can subscribe to this, and immediately you will be able to join. It starts at 8:45 a.m. Indian Standard Time every single day, and you can go and access it. I will be sending the details of the WhatsApp link. You can join it, so immediately you will also get a alert 30 minutes before. Just click and you can start joining. Excellent explanation of Madhva Shastra. Even 1 hour of listening to that every day, you're done. You probably don't need anything else. So excellent resources, which are all available online. You can access it anytime, anywhere. So that is about the online resources. So the other resource that we have tried to create is Madhvacharya for the youth. Again, an organization which we started 15 years back, and since then we have been conducting workshops in the form physical workshops, offline workshops we have conducted about 120 of them. Now, last 1 year, because of the pandemic, we've been doing it online, and I have delivered many lectures which cover the basic aspects of Madhva philosophy. So again, these links are available that you can use. It is covering many aspects of Madhwa philosophy, including the importance of Vedas, the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad-Gita, and topics like the true nature of God. What is the definition of God as given by the Shastras? What is the meaning of bhakti? When we say devotion, what does it really mean? And Madhva Shastra has some very sharp definitions of these terminologies. So all these aspects have been covered. The next workshop, which is scheduled on the 18th of April, talks about who am I. We have always wondered, who are we actually, and who am I? What is the nature of me? And all this and many more topics have been covered. This has all been rendered in the last about close to about 15 workshops have been covered, where we are talking only in English. It's predominantly in English. And many of them are in the question answer format, so you might want to visit some of these resources as well. So this is about Madhvacharya for the youth. I wanted to talk about Madhyam, which is again an organization which has the purpose of feeding the body and feeding the soul. So this is an organization, that Madhyam is indulged in. It's the first part is there is sattvic food which is supplied to people at their homes. Every day it is prepared in traditional style, dietary recommended food, recommended by dietitians. It is sattvic food, and it is offered to Krishna. Somebody performs an Naivedya every day, and then it is all delivered at people's doorstep. This is a paid service, but what we want to do going forward is that we want to extend it to people who can't afford it as well. So that is one of the purposes, and the other one is on Madhyam Foundation, which believes in giving this food free of cost, as well as Madhvacharya conduct the Madhvacharya for the youth workshops, so that it reaches everybody. So more of this is available on, details are available on madhyam.in. So please do access it. And if you would like to make a contribution, do let us know. We'll be happy to receive any support towards this. So that's about Madhyam Foundation. I will take a pause here and take any question that you would have, which I'm sure you have after the series of lectures that we have. Yeah, I agree with Mohan Nagarajan, who says, Hare Srinivasa, it is so true, the transformation has to start at home and not wait for others to start. It will never. It's an ocean, and hope to start in a small way. God willing and willing. Definitely, sir. There is a beautiful shloka that Sri Madhvacharya says, Prarambha matra ichhava Vishnu karmena nishphala. We just have to make up our mind. We just have to say yes, even if it is mechanical. But then Vishnu karmena nishphala, it never goes in vain. There will be some benefit. So if we decide today, tomorrow I'm going to perform the puja, everything will start to happen in that direction to make it successful. So Today, we have nothing to wait for. There is nothing that should keep us, or it should hold us back. Every second that we are moving in that direction, every second that we studied the Granthas is an elevation. Today you studied Mahabharata. Great. I mean, look at the change in society. The two TV television serials of Ramayana and Mahabharata brought to our life. All of us have been through that journey, irrespective of wherever you were in the world. It changed the way people. Now, why should stories, which we all, at least we think we know very well, if those can have that kind of appeal in this century, after thousands of years, you can imagine the transformational capability that they has. And imagine all that comes to us in a highly refined, highly crystallized, and highly pure form, which is what Madhvacharya does. It is something that can be only read to be believed. So I would again and again urge, no matter how distant we are from this. Some people say, no, I have become very old. I should have started it earlier. It's not the way to do it. Suppose you go to the doctor and the doctor says, look, your blood pressure is very high. You have diabetes, you have some other heart disease or some lifestyle disease, or you're obese or whatever. You should start exercising. People say, yeah, but all these days I've not exercised. But what does the doctor say? No, that might have been in the past. That is why you are like this. Now that you've come to know about it, you should act on it. The person immediately, what does he do? When does he go for walking? Not after 15 days. He starts going the next day. So similarly, let us not wait for tomorrow. Let us not wait for the next week. Let us not wait for the weekend. Because I used to joke that we have all become weekend madhvas. No, we should not be weekend madhvas. Because if we become weekend madhvas, we'll become weekend madhvas. No, this studies is not meant for weekends alone. Weekends are times to accelerate it, study more, revise, and so on and so forth. But every day, we all should make an effort. Men, women, children, people who are young, old, doesn't matter. Right? So can you please confirm about Kalyani Devi, whether she's the oldest sister of Purvashama Madhwacharya? So it is not very, very clear whether she was a sister of Sri Madhvacharya or Sri Trivikrama Panditacharya. There is a bit of a confusion because unfortunately Sumadvija, which is the contemporary biography of Sri Madhvacharya, does not say it in clear terms. So I will study more on that topic and get back to you. But at the moment, that is the thing. It is not something which is very clear from the biography, at least. Is there any other question? Thank you, Murali Avre, for posting all this for us, because it becomes easy for us to access this.
We will also post all these things on our website, NESRS Brindavan. I mean, including the presentation, content, session links, everything. So you can go to that website and get all these informations too. So it will be saved there too.
Yeah, all I would like to say is that it's indeed been my privilege from the day that the organizers got in touch with me. Sujit got in touch with me and said that we should do the series of lectures. From then on, it's been a very interesting journey for me to have been a part of New England Sri Raghavendra Swami Vrindavana's programs. And soon we got on to a discussion with R.V. Avru and everybody else. And Murali Avru joined us, and then we were on this interesting journey. Every moment that I spent preparing for this session was a great education to me, and got an opportunity for me to crystallize my own thoughts that I've learned over the years. Very thankful to all of you to have been so engaged with this activity. Just goes to show that the relevance of Madhvacharya is there at all times, across all borders, across the seven seas, and so on. It doesn't matter. I think what is important is that we are all students of Madhvacharya. That's our biggest identity. And the more we study, and a student is so incomplete without the teacher, the student is so incomplete without a book in his hand. So I keep looking at it. While it's super important to have the external manifestation, the Angarakshate or the Gopi Chandana, they're very important. But a Madhva is a true Madhva only when he has a Sarvamula Grantha in his hand. His life is incomplete. We can talk about everything that he has done till tomorrow morning, but we recite the Vishnu Sahasranama, we recite Harivahistati, we recite Raghavendra Stotra. The first shloka that we teach our children is Pujyaya Raghavendraya, isn't it? That's the shloka which every child knows. But what have we learned from Sri Raghavendra Swamiji? Somebody is, child is one and a half years old and is reciting Pujyaya Raghavendra, it's great. But it's a tragedy if that person is still reciting only that at the age of 85. Because in between, we have learned, we should have learned so much from Sri Raghavendra Swamiji. And here again, as I said, we can pick out the author of our choice. For example, I'm a big fan of Sri Vadaraja's work, which again, I think doesn't need any explanation to why that is the case. Attractive style of writing, and of course, Sri Tirtha himself, both these people. Somebody else might find some other guru's writings right, but doesn't matter because each of these people have given us so much that reading, if one has a name, okay, why don't we set goals like this? Saying, why don't I will read all the granthas of Sri Vadaraja. My God, that is the ocean of itself. And it will be a big successful life that he would have led. But important thing for us to remember is all these have a genesis in the Sarvamula Grantha of Sri Madhvacharya. So let us make an attempt to study. As I said, even the 9 of them will take us a long way. So thanks to all of you for being engaged. And I pray to God and Madhvacharya and all our gurus that they bestow you with the best knowledge. Because the greatest thing a guru can give us is knowledge. Everything else is secondary. The Gita says, Nahi Gnanena Sadasham Pavitram Iha Vidyate. If you read the whole of Bhagavad-Gita, nothing has been emphasized with this kind of emphatic words. Nahi Gnanena Sadasham Pavitram Iha Vidyate. So clear. So those words, I would like to thank all of you once again and hand it back to Sri R.V. Avre for his comments. Thank you so much.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha, Param Gurubhyo Namaha, Srimad Ananda Tirtha Bhagavad-Gita Gurubhyo Namaha. Hare Srinivasa. The whole series of Pravachana are lectures by Sri Sunder on the lives and works of Sri Madhwacharya is like a nectar to our eyes as well as ears. It was a combination of beautiful pictorial representations in conjunction with the details behind them. The amount of interest and curiosity this has generated in all of us to learn and hear more is very evident and open avenues to learn more about this beautiful Madhva Shastra and philosophy. From NESRS Vrindavan, it was a privilege to have Sri Sunder founder of Madhvacharya for youth, to partner and take us on this very important and wonderful journey. All the lectures, resources, and corresponding presentations will be structured and posted on the website as well in short order, as Murali Avare has earlier went over. The links to very important resources to explore more on the important Madhva philosophy will also be posted as part of the comments or details of the Facebook and YouTube channels. We really look forward to the monthly deep dive Pravachana lectures, and thanks to all the devotees who joined here and in the past sessions to be part of this beautiful journey. Please share this information and details with all your family members and friends so that all can benefit from these intriguing lectures. A big thanks for all the time, effort, and the amount of seva and interest with which these lectures were delivered by Sri Sunder Avare. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you so much.